Rows of alien representatives, each from a civilization more exotic than the next, sat in elevated arcs around a central podium, their expressions varying from wariness to open disdain. The air pulsed with a low hum of anticipation as they turned their gaze to the newcomers seated at the far end, the humans. General Bryan, the senior human delegate, sat stiffly, his broad shoulders squared, gaze fixed and uncompromising. Beside him, Colonel Mason, his longtime ally and confidant, scanned the room with quiet vigilance. Both men wore the human military's dark insignia, their bearing unmistakably one of battle-hardened resolve. To the other council members, they appeared as warriors who had braved countless hardships, unlikely diplomats, yet undeniably formidable. The council leader, an elder alien male of the Uralax race with cerulean skin and sweeping horns, approached the podium with measured steps, his robes rustling softly. His voice, low and dignified, echoed across the vast chamber as he began. Representatives of the Great Confederation, today we gather not merely to address conflict, but to prevent annihilation on both sides. Humanity, known to you all, stands as our focus. Brian's face remained impassive, but his eyes gleamed cold and unreadable. Across from him, whispers spread among the council, representatives exchanging glances that conveyed a mixture of apprehension and frustration. The council leader continued, his gaze sweeping over the gathered assembly. The war with humanity has proven costlier than anticipated. Many in this chamber believed that a swift show of strength would subdue them. Yet here we are. A murmur rippled through the delegates, a blend of grudging admiration and resentment. Humanity, once perceived as lesser, had fought back fiercely, with tactics that were unpredictable, ruthless, and devastatingly effective. Their numbers were smaller, their technology less advanced, yet they had held their ground. The Confederation had been shaken by the tenacity and ingenuity of these beings from a backwater planet called Earth. As the council leader pressed on, his tone grew heavy with urgency. The Great Confederation offers humanity a chance to end hostilities, to become one among us, united in peace and prosperity. He paused, his voice dropping to a grave murmur. Yet this peace requires acceptance of certain terms, a relinquishing of certain methods. Brian's expression darkened, but he remained silent, awaiting the full extent of the council's proposition. Colonel Mason clenched his jaw, his fingers tapping quietly against the armrest, a subtle indication of the impatience building within him. The council leader seemed to notice the human's restrained tension. He turned his head slightly, speaking directly to Brian. General Brian, Colonel Mason, you have proven humanity's strength beyond any doubt. But ask yourselves, is there a future in perpetual war? Would you condemn your people to endless conflict rather than accept a place within the Confederation, a chance to thrive? Brian rose, his towering frame casting a shadow across the podium. His voice, calm and unwavering, cut through the chamber like a blade. Our people have not survived this long by bowing to threats disguised as invitations. Council leader. He held the elder's gaze, the defiance in his eyes evident. Humanity has sacrificed too much for its freedom. We are willing to defend it, no matter the cost. The council chamber fell into a tense silence. Some alien representatives looked away, their discomfort palpable, while others sneered openly, viewing humanity's words as the arrogance of a lesser species. An alien from the Larynxa, a towering insectoid race known for its fierce martial culture, muttered to his companion in derision, his clicking mandibles adding an edge to the insult. Primitive arrogance. Colonel Mason's eyes narrowed at the remark, but he restrained himself. Brian, however, allowed himself a hint of a smirk, a subtle acknowledgement that he'd heard the insult, but chose to rise above it. The council leader, sensing the room's shifting mood, raised his hands in a placating gesture. General, we do not seek to enslave humanity. We seek to protect it from itself if need be. The galaxy is vast and perilous. Alone, humanity would be vulnerable, a target for those who would not negotiate at all. We extend a hand in friendship. Brian's expression softened, but his tone remained firm. Friendship is built on respect, not conquest veiled in diplomacy. You ask us to surrender our right to choose our path, to forfeit the freedoms that define us. Humanity will not become a pawn in another species' game. Mason nodded, echoing Brian's resolve. We understand what you're offering, Council Leader, but our decision is clear. We will not kneel. The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices, each delegate speaking over the other, some attempting to reason, others clearly outraged. The council leader's composure faltered momentarily as he raised his voice to regain control. "Enough," he commanded, silencing the room with a raised hand. He stared at the human delegates, his expression an inscrutable mask of frustration and, just barely, a hint of respect. "If humanity refuses our terms, General, understand that it is an irrevocable choice. You will face the wrath of a united galaxy." Brian leaned forward, meeting the council leader's gaze unflinchingly. "Then so be it." The council chamber fell silent once more, a quietness fraught with tension, as both sides realized that a line had been drawn, and there would be no turning back. The air in the council chamber remained tense as General Brian settled back into his seat, his gaze unyielding. Across from him, the council members sat in stunned silence, their attempts to appeal to humanity's cooperation having crumbled under his declaration. After a charged pause, Colonel Mason broke the silence, his voice calm but heavy with conviction. "Perhaps you misunderstand what we're made of," Mason began, his eyes sweeping the chamber. "Humanity has never backed down from those who sought to control us. We may not have your ships or your vast fleets, but we've fought every war on our own terms, and we've survived far worse odds than any of you could imagine." He glanced at Brian, a silent exchange passing between them, a shared understanding born of countless battles fought side by side. They were no strangers to desperate situations, and the stakes here were no different. The council leader's expression tightened, a faint crease of impatience showing through his otherwise impassive facade. "Colonel Mason, no one questions humanity's resilience. But surely even you must see the advantage of cooperation over conflict. War has ravaged your people, lives lost, cities burned. Why continue this path when a truce is within your reach?" Brian's jaw clenched, his voice low and resolute. "Because our freedom is not for sale. We did not come here to bow to your authority, nor to accept terms that would render us subservient. Humanity did not rise to the stars to be shackled under someone else's rule." Several council members exchanged uneasy glances, some appearing unsettled, others merely exasperated. One alien, a slim, reptilian being with shimmering scales, leaned forward, his yellow eyes narrow with contempt. "Humanity is barely advanced enough to join the galactic stage. You bring your violence with you, threatening our peace with your defiance. Why should we tolerate such recklessness?" A flicker of anger crossed Mason's face, but Brian held up a hand, signaling restraint. He turned his attention to the reptilian delegate, his tone icily polite. "Your people didn't tolerate us when you bombarded our outposts without warning. When you sent your warships to our solar system, you sought to bring us to heel like a lesser race. You underestimated us then, and it seems you're still underestimating us now." The council leader cleared his throat, seeking to regain control of the spiraling debate. "General Brian," he interjected, voice measured but with an edge, "you speak as if humanity has faced nothing but enemies. The Confederation offered you alliances, aid, knowledge beyond anything your world could offer. Yet you chose to resist, to cling to isolationism instead of embracing the unity we offer." Brian's eyes flashed. Unity at the cost of submission is no unity at all. For centuries, we have endured famine, war, nuclear devastation. Every time we were brought to the edge, we fought back, clawed our way from the ashes, and made our way forward. It's not in us to yield, no matter how tempting the alternative might look. Colonel Mason added, his voice a sharp contrast to the council leaders. "Maybe that's what you fear most about us. that humanity doesn't fit into your structured hierarchy. We're wild, unpredictable, and more than willing to do what it takes to survive. You want us to be civilized like you, to follow your rules. But we won't. Not now, not ever. Silence gripped the chamber once more. The weight of humanity's resolve, a palpable presence that stifled the room. Alien delegates glanced at each other, some in open dismay, others in restrained anger. The quiet buzz of whispered comments crackled, their words too low to catch but brimming with resentment. After a tense pause, the council leader's voice emerged, quieter now, as if the effort of diplomacy had worn thin. So, this is your answer, then? Defiance, no matter the cost. Brian nodded, his gaze unwavering. If the cost is our independence, then yes. We have survived every hardship thrown our way because we fought tooth and nail for the right to determine our own future. We have buried our dead, rebuilt our cities, and adapted to a universe that sees us as little more than a nuisance. But know this. There's nothing we won't do to protect our freedom. The elder alien studied Brian and Mason, his face a mask of suppressed frustration. You choose this path freely, General Brian, knowing the consequences? Yes, Brian replied without hesitation. And so do you. The council leader's gaze swept the assembly, as if searching for a glimmer of unity among the alien representatives. He found none, and a flicker of resignation passed over his features. Very well, he said at last. Let it be known that the Great Confederation extended a hand in peace, and humanity chose otherwise. Colonel Mason leaned forward, his voice carrying an edge of challenge. Peace is only peace if both sides stand as equals. We don't submit. We endure. Remember that when you're planning your next move. Brian and Mason rose, their figures tense yet composed, as the council members watched them with a mixture of admiration, resentment, and unease. The humans had made their stance irrevocably clear. They would not yield, and in that refusal lay a defiant power that unsettled even the most confident of the council members. As they turned to leave, a quiet stillness enveloped the chamber, a fragile moment of calm that hung over the assembly like a dark cloud. The council members' murmurs resumed, subdued and cautious, as they weighed the implications of humanity's rejection. The unspoken threat of conflict loomed large, a shadow that hinted at battles yet to come. With one last, resolute look over his shoulder, Brian left the chamber, the echo of humanity's decision reverberating in the uneasy silence that remained. The silence that followed Brian and Mason's declaration hung heavily in the council chamber, simmering beneath a thin veneer of diplomacy. Eyes narrowed, jaws tightened, and tension rose like an invisible force among the alien delegates. The humans remained standing, facing the assembly with an unyielding resolve that seemed to grow with each passing second. It was an alien from the Ash Rock, a race known for their warrior culture and unbridled arrogance, who finally broke the silence. His voice, a guttural growl, cut through the charged air. You humans cling to your primitive sense of independence as if it's strength. In truth, it's nothing but stubborn ignorance. The speaker was Scar, a towering, armored Ashrock male, his yellow eyes blazing with disdain. He leaned forward, claws tapping against the polished surface of his platform. His disdain was palpable, his words dripping with contempt. Your people have barely tasted the vastness of this galaxy, and yet you defy those who could crush you in an instant. You are but insects flailing against giants. General Brian turned to face Scar, his expression impassive but his eyes sharp, analyzing the alien with the focused intensity of a seasoned warrior sizing up a threat. Colonel Mason's jaw clenched, his fist tightening as he restrained himself from responding. Brian placed a hand on Mason's arm, a silent command to hold back. Perhaps you underestimate us, Scar, Brian replied calmly. Perhaps you mistake our refusal to yield as weakness because that's all you understand, domination and submission. But we aren't here to be lectured by those who would silence us. Scar's lip curled in a sneer. Silence? If the Confederation truly wished to silence you, Earth would be ashes by now. We have been more than merciful in our dealings with your kind. Yet here you stand, demanding respect that you have not earned. A ripple of approval spread through certain factions of the Council, allies of the Ashrock, nodding in agreement. Others, more inclined toward diplomacy, exchanged uneasy glances, their expressions betraying a silent questioning of their allegiance. The elder council leader, sensing the rising chaos, raised his hands to restore order, but his voice was drowned out by the alien delegates who had finally found their voices. Another delegate, a representative of the Cerulean, spoke up, her features smooth and serene, but her voice laced with scorn. The human mind is fascinating in its blindness. You speak of freedom, yet it's plain to see you're enslaved by your own pride. How long do you think you'll last if you isolate yourselves from this council? Colonel Mason stepped forward, his patience fraying at the edges. Freedom is our right, not a privilege you grant us. And if defending it means we stand alone, then so be it. The council chamber erupted in response, voices overlapping in a cacophony of disbelief, anger, and thinly veiled threats. Brian and Mason stood unfazed amidst the uproar, their calm defiance a sharp contrast to the council members' fraying decorum. The Great Confederation was not accustomed to such defiance, least of all from a species they had considered beneath them. Amidst the chaos, Scar's voice rose above the rest, his tone mocking. You are but children playing with fire, blind to the inferno that awaits. Humanity may have fought among itself, may have conquered its own world, but it has yet to face the true horrors of this galaxy. If you reject the Confederation's protection, you will learn the hard way. Brian's eyes hardened. We have faced horrors enough to know that the worst evils are often disguised as protectors. At this, a new wave of whispers surged through the room. Some alien representatives fell silent, a few glancing away as if the accusation struck a hidden truth. Others, like Scar, merely scoffed, unwilling to consider the implications. The council members were torn, some enraged, others uneasy. Scar's sneer widened and he leaned forward, his voice laced with a venomous satisfaction. Then prepare to learn your lesson, human. When your defiance leaves her vulnerable and broken, don't expect mercy. Brian met his gaze, unblinking. We expect nothing from you but contempt, Scar. But know this. If you come for us, we will defend our home with everything we have. And if we fall, we'll ensure you pay for every inch of ground you take. For a brief moment, an uneasy silence settled over the chamber. The human delegate's words had cast a shadow that lingered in the minds of even the most hostile council members. There was a finality to Brian's declaration, a conviction that hinted at depths of resolve few had anticipated. The council leader, his face strained, raised his voice once more, his words a desperate attempt to restore the chamber to order. Enough! His voice reverberated through the chamber, momentarily silencing the uproar. He turned to Brian, a flicker of respect in his gaze despite the frustration that lined his features. General Brian, humanity has made its stance clear, but understand that this path will bring unimaginable consequences upon your world. The Confederation does not take defiance lightly. Brian inclined his head slightly, a calm and unbroken gaze meeting the council leader's warning. We are prepared for whatever consequences may come. But remember, when the history of this conflict is written, it will record that humanity chose freedom over fear. The council leader nodded, his expression inscrutable, but the weight of Brian's words lingered in his silence. He finally turned to address the assembly. Then let it be known that the Great Confederation has offered peace, and humanity has rejected it. Whatever follows, it is by their choice. The council chamber erupted once more, but this time with a more ominous tone. Resentful eyes followed Brian and Mason as they strode from the chamber, heads held high, the tension thick with unspoken threats and simmering hostilities. For humanity, the path ahead would be fraught with peril, but their resolve remained unbroken. As they left the chamber, a sense of foreboding settled over the gathered council members, an unshakable awareness that something irreversible had been set into motion. Outside the council chamber, General Bryan and Colonel Mason walked in silence through the marble corridors, their footsteps echoing off the polished walls. The weight of what they'd done settled over them like a leaden mantle. They had left humanity on a razor's edge, refusing the Confederation's terms and setting the stage for a confrontation the likes of which Earth had never seen. Mason broke the silence first, his voice low. "They're not going to forget this, Bryan. The moment we rejected their offer, we drew a target on Earth's back. There'll be retaliation, and it won't be a slap on the wrist." Bryan nodded, his gaze steady, his face betraying no doubt. "We knew the risk the moment we came here, Mason. They offered us peace under their boot, survival on their terms, not ours. We have one option now: to prepare and to make sure that when they come, we'll give them hell." They continued down the corridor until they reached an overlook, the vastness of space spread out before them through a towering window. Stars blinked in the darkness, each a reminder of the untold worlds and alien civilizations they were now at odds with, a harsh reminder of the challenge before them. But where others might have seen hopeless odds, Bryan saw a horizon of potential, of hard-earned victory or noble sacrifice. Mason sighed, his shoulders tense. "We're going to have to call for every ship, every soldier Earth can spare. Even then, against their fleets, it'll be an uphill fight. We barely explored our own corner of space. They'll have the advantage." Bryan's mouth tightened into a determined line. "They might have more ships and firepower, but they don't know us. They think we'll break easily, that we're soft and untested. Let them believe it. They're about to find out what it means to pick a fight with humans." A figure emerged from a shadowed alcove nearby, and Bryan recognized Captain Darius Kane, a formidable Special Forces commander who had been awaiting their return. Kane's chiseled features were set in grim determination, his dark eyes flashing with the same fire that drove Bryan and Mason. "So," Kane began, his voice low but sharp, "we're officially at war with the Confederation. Just like we planned, then." "Exactly," Bryan replied. "And we'll need you and your team to get ready. The Confederation won't waste time. They'll want to make an example of us, and we'll need all hands on deck." Kane nodded, his gaze shifting out the window, as though already scanning the stars for threats. "My men are ready. They've been itching for a reason to prove that Earth's soldiers aren't just ornaments in a diplomatic meeting. We'll give them something to fear." Mason placed a hand on Kane's shoulder, a rare smile breaking his otherwise stern demeanor. "That's what I wanted to hear. We'll need more than just grit, though. Our tech division has been working on some experimental weaponry, reverse-engineered from the bits and pieces of alien tech we've managed to salvage. We'll need every edge we can get." Kane's eyebrows raised in interest. "Good. We'll need surprises. The more unpredictable, the better." A faint shimmer of hope glimmered between them, born from their shared resolve. They weren't just preparing for survival. They were planning to give the Confederation a reason to remember humanity's strength. The resolve between them was unspoken but clear. Earth would stand, or they would die trying. Bryan looked at the men around him, his heart swelling with a fierce pride. "They don't understand us," he said quietly, his voice carrying a conviction that ran deep in his bones. "They think we're a minor nuisance, a species barely worthy of their attention. But they're wrong. And by the time they realize it, it'll be too late." As they made their way back to their ship, the Sentinel, Mason activated his communication device and issued orders to the High Command back on Earth. "Prepare for immediate mobilization." Authorization granted for Project Ironclad. Bryan listened as Mason gave the command, his mind racing. Project Ironclad was humanity's last resort defense, a plan to turn Earth into a fortress, securing every outpost, readying every weapon, transforming their home into an unassailable bastion. If they couldn't take the fight to the Confederation just yet, they would make it impossible for the Confederation to break through to them. "We'll be ready," Mason murmured, almost to himself. They think they're fighting a species that will bend under pressure. But what they don't understand is that every hardship, every war, every loss has only sharpened us. They're not just fighting our military. They're fighting our history, our resilience. Cain, hearing this, gave a solemn nod. And if they come, they'll find we're a different kind of enemy. We're not afraid to sacrifice, to adapt. We'll outlast them. If they underestimate us, it's their own fault. The hum of the Sentinel's engines filled the cabin as they prepared to leave, a reassuring sound that reminded Brian of humanity's ingenuity and determination. As the ship lifted off, Brian looked out at the stars again, his heart beating with fierce determination. The Confederation had seen humanity's defiance as arrogance, as the folly of an inferior race. But soon, they would learn that humanity's defiance was its strength. As Earth's surface dwindled below them, a final, resonant thought struck Brian. The Confederation would bring all their force, all their power, to bear upon his world. But humanity had already endured and conquered untold hardships. They had risen from the ruins of their past, surviving by sheer will, by ingenuity, and by an unbreakable bond to each other and their world. And now, they would rise again. The stars awaited them, the distant and hostile galaxies standing as the next proving ground. And when the Confederation arrived, humanity would be ready to show them what it meant to stand alone,